What is your darkest secret, which you have never told anyone about? My mom and dad divorced when I was 4 and my mom verbally abused my dad on the regular. He always took it, never said a bad word about her, ever. He was a big guy, strong, immovable and quiet. He would just hug myself and my brother and the world would put itself to rights. That kind of dad. We would see him at the weekends early on. This would change as my mom became more vindictive, but for the first few years this was the status quo. I remember playing Doom with him, just sitting in his lap thinking this was the coolest thing ever. Then we would go to Blockbuster, get a movie and a takeaway and chill on the sofa. Myself and my brother always ended up sitting on the floor by my dad's feet just to be a little closer to the action. Anyway, it was a usual weekend, bike ride, TV and some wrestling on the sofa. My dad had already rented the movie so we didn't know what it was. Turned out it was Mrs. Doubtfire. Okay, so we made it through most of the film without incident. Then it came to the scene in the courtroom where Robin Williams begs for his kids, literally begs just to be in their life, watch them grow, be their father. My dad gets up and goes to the toilet, I assume. For a few minutes I didn't notice. There were sounds coming from the kitchen, inconsistent breaths and pacing. I walked into the kitchen to my dad gripping both sides of the fridge, his forehead touching the cold metal, and he was just shuddering a full body shudder while tears fell freely. I didn't know what to do. I started to cry as well. I was only 8 and I didn't understand. I couldn't understand and it scared me. I just whispered, "Dad?" His head whipped around and I thought for sure he was angry, but he just dropped to his knees and held me. He called for my brother and squished us together. He was still shaking. It was so powerful. He held onto us like we were the only things rooted to the ground, like he was scared we would disappear. After a minute he got up and held onto the fridge again. He opened it, pulled out some ice cream, smiled and said come on as he walked to the sofa. That is one of only 2 times I ever saw my dad cry. It was the day I realized he wasn't made of stone and metal. He wouldn't fly, and he couldn't save the world. He was just a man who loved his kids and couldn't bear to see them go.